Jeff Flake is a Republican senator. I've talked about him before. Recently, he's been, I guess, sort of like a slight voice of reason within the context of the nonsensical Republican Party. You might remember that when there was that horrible truck attack in New York City about 5 weeks ago, Donald Trump slammed Chuck Schumer for not having changed a law that Trump incorrectly blamed for that attack. And Republican Senator Jeff Flake was right there saying, hold on a second. Republicans and Democrats had a proposal to change the law, and senators from both parties failed to actually make the change. So it's not Democrat Chuck Schumer's fault. He was right. Back in June, Jeff Flake was one of the Republican senators who said that if Trump wants to continue escalation with Syria, military escalation, then there needs to be a vote for a new AUMF, an authorization to use military force, that using the authorization for force from 2001 meant to fight al-Qaeda was not going to cut it if Donald Trump wanted continued military action in Syria. And then shortly after Trump's inauguration, Jeff Flake was one of a few Republican senators who opposed the majority Muslim country travel ban. And most recently, he made news because he gave this impassioned speech on the Senate floor where he basically said, this is not normal, what's going on under Donald Trump, and I am quitting the Senate because this is so insane. So the point is, Jeff Flake, yeah, he's still a Republican. I disagree with Jeff Flake on most issues, but he's had some moments of pseudo integrity over the last year or so. We learned yesterday that Republican Senator Jeff Flake donated to the Democratic candidate in the Alabama Senate race, where the Republican candidate is alleged serial child sex abuser Roy Moore. Tweeting a picture, did Jeff Flake, of his donation check where he wrote simply country over party. And it's a picture of $100 check written out of his and presumably this is his wife's account, he and his wife's account. And Doug Jones later thanked Jeff Flake for the donation on Twitter, saying, thanks, Jeff. I hope others will donate to hashtag 1 week, hashtag right side of history. So listen, this is not a story for me to cheerlead Jeff Flake as someone that progressives should support, but that's the incredible thing. The Republican Party has become so divorced from even like the most basic modicum of morality and ethics, and they're so embroiled in such extreme partisanship that just me saying, hey, here's a Republican who's not supporting the serial alleged child molester, it almost sounds like in 2017, I'm saying this is someone that I support politically, which is not true, right? In years past, you might have to go decades ago, people would disagree vehemently politically, but they would be more or less on the same page in terms of, hey, Roy Moore is accused by 6 people, credibly, of sexual assault, but let's put politics aside and just say this isn't a good potential senator. Neither party wants people with these credible allegations against them to be serving in the Senate. Politics aside, at some point in American history, our lawmakers would have been unanimous in saying presidential candidate accused by more than a dozen women of sexual assault, including a 13-year-old girl of rape, ridiculed Hispanics, ridiculed Muslims, ridiculed the disabled reporter, on and on. Let's put politics aside and decide it's bad for the country to support someone like that. But we've fallen so far from that, that when someone like Jeff Flake merely says, I'm not with the alleged child sex predator, regardless of my party, some people will misinterpret that as me saying I agree with Jeff Flake's politics. That's not the case. That's just not the case at all.
And I think, most Republicans with any hint of integrity left, they're not going to support Roy Moore. Maybe they'll stay home if they're voting in Alabama. Maybe they'll support a write-in candidate.
I don't
but
know.
then you're de facto supporting Doug Jones. And I think Jeff Flake is just going right to the source here. Why beat around the bush?
Maybe. I don't know that I agree with you. I think that Roy Moore has more actual, genuine support from Alabama Republicans than... I mean, you're presenting an optimistic
Those with
view.
any integrity left, right?
Yeah, right, which is what percentage of them, I guess. That's
We'll
the
find
question.
out.
Jeff Flake is sort of like, there's this term in the startup world called the minimum viable product, which is sort of like the minimum thing you need to put together to be able to say, hey, it's ready for some people to use this. that sort of applies here to Jeff Flake in some sense. We're not saying that he has great views on taxation. In fact, he voted in support of this harebrained, disgusting tax bill recently. We're not saying we agree with him on social policy. All we're saying is he meets the absolute minimum criteria to be a reasonable person, which is that he's just not going to support the alleged serial child sex assaulter. That's all.
And remember, he's essentially a lame duck. I mean, he's not running for re-election in 2018.
Yeah.
So that's what it took for him to be one of those people.
Absolutely. December 12th is election day in Alabama. December 11th is the deadline for postmarking absentee ballots in that election if you're voting absentee. Donate, phone bank, knock on doors. Donate, phone bank, knock on doors. I don't know that we realize, that everybody realizes the extent of the opportunity that there is here to turn a very, very red state, Alabama, and particularly a seat previously held by the now Attorney General Jeff Sessions, into a Democratic seat. It is a gigantic opportunity. And aside from that, you've got an alleged serial child sex assaulter there who might be the next senator from Alabama. Let's not let it happen. The video you just watched was made possible by support from you. Please go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. You can make a pledge of as little as $1 per month. And every dollar helps to support the work that we're doing, particularly in light of the YouTube ad boycott, which has been really bad.